Welcome back, everyone. Our next session is a panel discussion on the conference theme, What are innovative solutions to improve park accessibility for people with disabilities? On our panel today, we have Carinna Kenigsberg, Tanelle Bolt, Patrick Lord, Jamie McCulloch, and Noah Papatsie. Carinna is the Director of Programs and Impact at Power to Be, a British Columbia-based charity that removes barriers for people living with disabilities and supports them accessing nature. Tanelle is the founder of RAD Recreational Adaptive Society, whose mission is to expand the inventory of outdoor adaptive equipment available for short-term rental. Patrick leads the Outdoor Pursuits program at Prospect Human Services, which provides access to the outdoors for individuals with developmental disabilities in Alberta. Jamie is the executive director of Rocky Mountain Adaptive, a nonprofit organization that makes mountain sports and recreation accessible for everyone. Noah, you may remember from yesterday, was born and raised in Iqaluit, Nunavut. Noah has a rich career in broadcasting, advocacy work, and local politics. So welcome, everyone. I'll start with a round of introductions. Carinna, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I am with dirty blonde curly hair and blue eyes, wearing black clothing and coming to you from British Columbia, and specifically want to recognize the traditional territory of the Wasanic Nations that I live nearby and get to enjoy, work, and play on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Tanelle?
My name is Tanelle. I am similar to Carinna, dirty blonde, but straight hair, Caucasian with blue eyes. And I am also on the same territory as Carinna. And I am the founder of RAD Society for short. And I'm just very, very honored to be part of this awesome panel today.
Thank you. Patrick?
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. I am a white male with blue eyes, brown hair, a little bit more gray than I like to see these days, but and wearing a black button-up shirt. Prospect and myself are located on what we call Alberta, and is the traditional and ancestral territory of many Indigenous First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. So we would like to make this an acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those territories that we reside on and are visiting. So thank you very much, and very happy to be here.
Thank you. Jamie?
Thank you very much again. And yes, super happy to be here and part of this fantastic panel today. Yeah, we come and are very privileged to play and recreate on the traditional lands of the Treaty 7 territory, which is shared with the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. And yeah, I'm the co-founder and executive director of Rocky Mountain Adaptive, based in the Rocky Mountains, making all mountain sport and recreation accessible to all.
Thank you. And Noah?
Thank you, everybody, for the introduction. I appreciate it. My name's Noah Papatsie. I'm a blind user here in Iqaluit, Nunavut, born and raised here. I'm a full-time advocate after my accident. So it's been a challenging and great advocacy all around. Also, I sit on numerous organizations and former city councilor. So it's great to meet everyone. Looking forward to the conversation. Nice to meet everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, so let's dive right in. Let's start off by talking about adaptive equipment. Adaptive equipment such as all-terrain wheelchairs, hippocamp, buoyancy chairs, and audio guides are invaluable at providing access to areas that might not otherwise be accessible. But there are a lot of challenges with providing adaptive equipment at parks, such as storage, access to electricity to charge the equipment, and securing personal equipment while using the park equipment. So what are some ways that parks can overcome these challenges and successfully provide adaptive equipment for use at the parks? Tanelle, I know your work with RAD Society is trying to address these challenges, so let's have you start off this discussion.
So RAD Society came up with a brain idea 3 years ago that we have called the RAD Gearbox. And this is a shipping container idea where it is renovated into an adaptive rental hub for equipment that people can share and take out for short-term use when they come to a certain place. So implementing that in parks would maybe look like a small container, 16 to 20 feet. It's fully wheelchair accessible. It is solar powered, off the grid, and full of a variety of different pieces of equipment. So equipment that resides on Vancouver Island would look much different than the equipment that shows up in Nunavut, but it would be provided in the same way. RAD is currently launching the first prototype of this in Langford, British Columbia on Vancouver Island with their Parks and Rec department to start to see the feasibility of a product like this to be delivered everywhere. And we help everybody with mobility challenges. I have yet to, I don't think I'll go into somebody else's expertise and field of providing wayfinding for somebody with a visual impairment so much, but for anybody living with a physical mobility challenge, from the small kids who had a disability from a vaccine when they were 3 to the 88-year-old gentleman who had a stent put in his brain and was losing the ability to golf and is now able to move around and be supported by adaptive equipment. And it's that same piece of adaptive equipment for all ages in between. So this is the program that we came up with 3 years ago, and we're finally starting to see some fruition happen on that.
Amazing. Yeah, I really love this idea in more ways than one, and I think it has so much potential. Jamie, I know that Rocky Mountain Adaptive, that's one of the things they do as well, is really helping people access equipment. So what are your thoughts on this?
Indeed. We, being able to provide services in this industry, we are incredibly lucky over the last 5 years in the recent history with the evolution of design of adaptive sports equipment. The variety of stuff that's becoming on the market and available, albeit while being fairly expensive, is really opening up the opportunities to be able to not only just have an experience in parks, but be able to do that on an individual's own turn relative to their own uniqueness around their mobility or cognitive functioning levels. So the solutions are coming there. In the past, challenges that I found as well is that equipment can be used on. But with some of the designs of equipment that are coming out, that in itself is curing some of the inaccessibility problems and making the trails systems and infrastructure around parks accessible due to the nature of the design of that equipment. So with that being there, and also the development of organizations like the RAD Society, Power to Be, Chris over in Kelowna, Akutni Adaptive, there's so many coming up. So with the availability of that equipment, the organizations doing it, collaborations with parks to kind of bring everyone together. I'm really excited for the potential moving forward and the solutions we have to maximize participation in parks for individuals of all abilities, and most importantly, on the individual's own terms and relative to their goals and aspirations for being in the parks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Carinna, I can see you nodding along. Do you want to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what's being said. I think something to think about that was quite creative that BC Parks did was they looked at their operational budget. So instead of looking at just equipment budgets or ways to modify some of their sites, they started to look at some of the infrastructure and operational budgets and started to see how they could be purchasing some adaptive equipment in potentially more remote locations. So there was a region of BC Parks up in the north in Prince George, and they were able to purchase a trail rider by using this kind of model. So it's just a creative model to look at some pre-existing budgets you have, because Trail Riders is an example, which is a very useful tool, but doesn't offer the same independence, but they range around $10,000. So for the park sector to really think about how to utilize their budgets creatively and see maybe different areas within their budget that actually help support access and ties into infrastructure might be an angle that people would be able to start to purchase some of these equipments where you're not able to do things as independently or potentially have the benefit of, you know, a product or an opportunity like Tanelle is trying to do as well.
Absolutely. I think that's some fantastic advice and suggestions of ways that we can be learning from what some organizations are already doing. Noah, do you have any thoughts on some of the like adaptive equipment that's available in the North?
Thank you, everybody. Great comments, questions. I appreciate it. In reality, no, I get that'll be the truth. But at the same time, it's good to hear there's some adjustments at the same time, where, you know, there's a building where you can, you know, borrow some equipments now. It's finally, we have that in place today, which is great. Awesome. That's a beginning of the story, and more of the story too is as well. A lot of it needs to be upgraded, especially through the beginning of the phase where we all can, you know, connect together. You know, where individuals and workforces, you know, use these places, and most importantly, safety is number one. Safety is always a priority. So in remote places, there's animals around, and at the same time, we need to work around the animals or be respectful to the land, and as well as work with the land, really. If we work with the land, how to be more environmentally friendly, taking care of it, then we'll all work together. It'd be great.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Those are some fantastic thoughts. Patrick, do you have any thoughts on adaptive equipment and sort of overcoming some of these challenges?
Yeah, I mean, the other panelists are definitely the experts in this area for sure. I mean, the clients and participants that we work with don't necessarily need as many adaptive equipments, but some of the clients that we are able to take on and things like that might definitely need some of that equipment as well. So it's really great to see so many new and, well, maybe not as new, but upcoming organizations that are being able to provide that for people to allow them to have that experience and to learn and enjoy the amazing parks that we have, because I think it's really, really essential for our community, especially now, to be able to get out and really have that accessibility. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think quite a few guys have touched on, oh, Jamie, yeah, let's hear from you again.
Yeah, just one thing regarding the adaptive equipment and the relationship to the usage and promotion within our park system is, yeah, the regulators of the park, something we need to look at doing is around the policies around the equipment usage and having clarity and education and awareness around specific adaptive equipment. And as I've talked about, the great evolution in design and the impact that that can have. But yeah, there needs to be clarity on what can be used, how a certain bit of equipment is qualified as someone's mobility device. And so when someone has the access to that equipment and can use it, they're not necessarily finding people confronting them on the trail as to why are you using this? It's just a hiking trail, and having to justify this is what I need to be able to enjoy this trail in a hiking environment. So not only clarity around the policies and procedures from parks around that usage, the education and awareness to the general public as a whole as to what is being provided, and yeah, the social aspects as to why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was some things that definitely came up in yesterday's conversations as well. And I think quite a few of you have touched on this idea of organizations and how organizations are playing a role. And that kind of leads me to this next question that, you know, there already in existence are a number of organizations and agencies that help make the outdoor activities more accessible for people with disabilities, you know, through equipment, through training, through assistive help and things like this, and having the staff. So, what do you think is the role potentially for government and parks to take on stronger partnerships with these nonprofit agencies to help make parks more accessible? So, Carinna, given your role in Power to Be, let's have you start off this discussion.
Sure. I think the big thing to think about is the life experience of the person. And so when people start out as children and move through different stages of life, they also experience different experiences from, going to parks, going to camps, going to rec centers, being a part of their community. So a big effort that we all need to do is break the mold of those silos and really start to see where we can align in our practices around those attitudes, those approaches, and those adaptations. So work that we've done that, Tanelle and I have done, as well as Jamie and I, is really trying to look at how do we break that sector component and look at all of those different aspects and try and create a collaboration that not only educates around the practice side, but also where those people are going to. So we have a philosophy around people, place, and practice. And by hitting those three elements, it really does create that optimal training opportunity. So an example is our work with BC Parks and Parks Canada. And we brought in 2 other non-for-profits alongside us who have specialties around working with people with autism, as well as newcomers as well. So to really give a holistic perspective of what inclusion could look like. And all 5, 6 of our organizations co-created a workshop together where we were really targeting how do we build on that people, place, and practice components. What are those training pieces that the staff are needing to facilitate optimal experiences? What are those gaps in the training components, the gear components? And then also, how do we leverage those partnerships to be able to access equipment, to find new terrain, to look at language being a little bit altered to create more inclusive language to really support those diverse populations? And then we tailored scenarios to focus on true life situations that those park sector organizations were facing with the expertise from these other service providers. And the main thing that was really helpful too was meeting them later on to check in on how those sessions were working and how they're being implemented so that we could offer that coaching support in real life time where people could alter those practices. So I think it's really, again, just moving away from that silo and seeing opportunities to enhance those people, places, and practices.
Absolutely. That's fantastic and really exciting work to be able to do those partner training programs. Tanelle, do you have anything to add with that?
It's really tough to put an accessibility lens on, say, like management plans that have already been written for the next 10 years. I find my experiences with parks is they like to plan a long time in the future. And 10 years ago, they weren't planning for accessibility. So we are not in the management plan that is currently in existence. There's an environmental lens and there's an Indigenous engagement lens. And the accessibility lens, we are trying to interject without it actually having been a thought 5 or 10 years ago. So funding is a huge, huge issue for adaptive recreation because these places and spaces don't have the accessibility that they should at this moment. Therefore, the people that are wanting to be there are not there. And when we go to apply for funding, we get asked, well, how many people are you actually helping? How many people are in these parks right now? They're not there right now. You have to put your money where your mouth is, and then they will start to come. But currently, funding is just a great big barrier. It's nice for me to check a box as I'm adaptive, I'm a wheelchair user, and I'm there. But to actually see that program delivery and exactly what Carinna is saying, that education and that, changing the mindset and, like Jamie said, changing the culture behind it, these are huge barriers. And these management plans are just coming out now for the next 10 years, and accessibility is still not a lens on them. So a hurdle is trying to figure out how to stick ourselves in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is That is a major barrier. Patrick, I could see you nodding along at one point.
Yeah, I think both of the other panelists, they mentioned a lot of the things that we struggle with, and I think the funding is definitely a large portion of it. I mean, we're very fortunate with the transportation aspect, and we're able to support our clients in transporting them to areas within Southern Alberta, which again, we're very fortunate, but I know that a lot of people are not able to experience different parks and locations due to that area. Like if, for example, if you're living in Calgary and getting out to Banff or Kananaskis area, you're not going to be able to be exposed to those areas if you're in a lower economic area, right? Or if you're a lower economic individual. So having the funding to be able to have organizations and provide transportation to those individuals to get out to those areas. And then when you finally do get out to the area, be with some types of professionals that are going to be able to teach you about the area and help you and guide you through navigating the parks and navigating the trail systems that you might be involved in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jamie, I know your organization works primarily within a provincial and a national park. So do you feel like there's an opportunity there for parks to have a stronger collaboration with organizations?
Mute.
Sorry, take myself off mute. I mean, I have to declare my conflict of interest here, being the leader of a nonprofit organization looking to expand our outreach. Yeah, within this, trying to structure the best way of putting this politically, we're in a great stage where we are, like the awareness and education around inclusion, accessibility, and for kind of a lot of people on our panel in the recreation format is evolving. With the passing of the Accessible Canada Act, that's definitely going to help things within National Park and hopefully bridge that planning process that kind of Tanelle brought up and make it more relevant as we move forward. But to achieve those targets and the lofty ambitions and like trying to incorporate all the great things that we've heard over the last 3 days, we're going to achieve that through collaboration and making sure that everyone that is interested in meeting these gaps and creating a truly accessible park system where we can recognize everyone's strengths, the resources we have, while being cognizant of our own areas of improvement that we need to evolve and what we need to elevate that with, whether that's funding, education, awareness, or whatever. Through that collaboration piece, we can achieve incredible things. And I'll just probably finish my little talk here with a positive example. And yeah, being based in Canmore and Banff, we do have the great luxury and privilege of being able to recreate on a lot of Alberta parklands and Banff National Park. We also do programming up in Jasper National Park as well. And through the recent history, we are developing very good relationships and developing partnerships with these organizations. And already in that short time, how that's been able to increase the participation of people of all abilities in our parks has been huge. And that has to be a continued way forward because there's a lot of people with the passions and skill sets that can contribute to this and create great environments moving forward.
Absolutely. Noah, are you seeing partnerships in Nunavut where organizations and parks are sort of collaborating to improve accessibility?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answers, everybody. Very interesting. Yes, I feel the good connection where, it's good that there's communication where we can, again, really find and connect even through, telephone. It's good that, I can be safe on my own where I can connect with anybody. But in reality too, as we're talking along, again, people doesn't have all these technologies. There's different ways of using technology that we use, and it can be analog, where we can use our own way of navigating ourselves. And sometimes, as for me, I'm lucky. Like, I've learned the way of the parts already before I got blind. And what actually happened was I needed to get back what I needed to get back to, which is my root. So it's very important that, respecting the people, individuals within each community in remote places. It's more importantly that we communicate better, because, up here, we use what we use and what we have. And at the same time, there's a lot of room for improvement. If we listen to each other loudly, we can connect better and help each other and create a more accessible, inclusive parks.
Absolutely. I agree fully with this. I think we'll move on to the next question now. So in many instances, making a particular park location, either the entire park itself or just a component of the park, making it accessible is overwhelmingly challenging due to environmental or historical preservation requirements. And this can include, remoteness and terrain challenges or preservation of animal habitats. And so in these cases, how do you think the parks could go about designing and creating an equivalent meaningful experience, either through, virtual reality or 360-degree cameras, all of this sort of technology, or even exhibits located in more accessible areas? And what are some of the core components that you think would go into creating this equivalent meaningful experience? So Noah, let's start off with your thoughts on this.
Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Oh, exciting. Anyway, as in remote places, more exciting, I think, mobile units can be so useful up here. There's different kinds of transportation today that's being shown, especially that can be used for disability purposes, and for emergency use, and as well as for the parks. There's all-terrain vehicles that can be used across, each park, where it can be used, where they can go further in a safer manner. There's equipment within that all-terrain vehicle that can be used and learn upon, where we can learn about the environment, where we can learn, especially from each other, really educate each other, how we can adventure and enjoy the parks together, and in respectful manner, and understanding our languages, really. And that really helps learning along the way and listening to each other loudly. That way, challenges will not be barriers when we get to that point of direction where inclusive is important, and especially, planning. Planning is important, not just for a year, maybe 10, 20 years is great.
Thank you. Absolutely. I think those are some fantastic points. Patrick, do you have any thoughts on this idea of equivalent meaningful experiences and how parks can go about creating that for people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Noah made a really great point about including that the informational piece around those areas. If it's a historic or preservation area, the more people know and the more people are informed about why that is a historical area or preservation type area, the more that they are going to allow themselves to take part in the experience and learn more about it, so that they can become part of that community, which helps to preserve that area. And within that, you start to look at the core components about why people want to get out there, right? Like, why do people want to go out to the mountains and go hiking, or go in any areas of the park and go hiking or do whatever they would like to do? And what makes that meaningful, right? You want to be able to have that connection and experience that. And especially now, over the past 2 years, where there's so much screen time, people want to get out and feel adventurous and have that experience with the wild, and sort of feel the wind on their face, so to speak, and that type of thing. So I think it's really important that in the development of new parks and areas and things like that, it's really important to institute those core surroundings of sort of all involving all of this, the senses when you are building these types of areas, because if somebody might not have the ability to see or something like that, we should have an application or a description of what that area looks like, or or something like that. Like there's one trail that I went on, it's called Johnson Canyon in Banff, and there's so many people that travel on that trail, right? And so in the middle of the summer, if it's a beautiful day, you're going to be wall to wall with people, and just navigating through people as an able-bodied person, that's hard enough, let alone if you have some type of restriction or something like that. So being able to have maybe specific times where individuals can go and experience those types of trails where they can hear the rushing water from the waterfall, or actually get close enough to the waterfall rather than navigating through 100 people, so that they can feel the water splashing off the rocks and things like that, and allowing those accessible times so that everybody can feel included and allow them to feel those experiences, I think is really important. So yeah, the large education piece is going to build that sense of community and build that sense of wilderness community, and then also being able to develop your experience around all of the senses so that people can feel the earth under their feet or whatever they might be doing, that kind of a thing. There was an individual that was on yesterday that I was listening to, or maybe the day before, and he explained that there was a trail that was an accessible trail, and they got halfway through the trail and it turned into a non-accessible trail, and so it felt them wanting more, and they weren't able to feel that sense of accomplishment, which I think is a large portion of when people experience the parks, is they want to feel accomplished in completing that trail, or something like that. So yeah, I think if something is going to be labeled an accessible trail, or allow that trail to be completed as it's advertised. If it's a 3-kilometer trail and only one or half of it, 50% of it is accessible, then that's selling it short, you know? So being able to develop that area so that everybody can experience it the way that it's meant to be experienced.
Amazing. Thank you for those thoughts. Carinna, I could see you nodding along. Do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I definitely echo a lot what Patrick is saying. The sensory component is so valuable, and sometimes I think that the park staff don't remember how talented they are at interpretation and at all the different ways that they already build knowledge around local flora and fauna, the indigenous cultures, and really thinking, how do you take the things that you do through those educational means at maybe booths or other interpretive programs and bring them into those spaces that maybe don't have full universal accessibility. And one of our colleagues that I work with, you know, she lives in a chair, and she's reminded me several times that not every place needs to be completely accessible. It's really about those landmarks of experiences. And so by having, you know, information on the local flora and fauna, or to Patrick's point, finding those times that are a little quieter, BC Parks Foundation created some space for participants from Power to Be and another organization called Connects Autism, where they gave them the quiet hour. So they were able to access the park when it wasn't super busy. And that gave the chance for that interpretation to go a little bit deeper. So by looking at those innovative strategies to really think about, again, can you have tactile things that people can touch, feel, smell, listen to, and I would say the experts are the ones that are the park staff doing that incredible interpretation programs. And how do you bring those into the places that have that natural heritage, that maybe they can't go up to the top of the lighthouse, but they may be able to experience what the rope feels like, or potentially the smell of the ocean, or other components that are connected to those natural spaces and places.
Amazing. Thank you. Jamie, do you have any thoughts on equivalent accessible experiences where, you know, maybe the mountain is just really, really not accessible or safe for someone?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this conference has created a great base for learning. And just within this panel discussion, I want to recognize my own learning and give thanks to Noah, who at the beginning of every question is giving thanks to the question and the opportunity to answer. So thank you, Noah, for giving me that appreciation of that time to appreciate the environment I'm in and the contribution I can make. And to our amazing interpreters that are doing a phenomenal job interpreting as we go along. So thank you there. For where we're operating, like, the natural environment provides so much, shall we say, like, environmental challenges just with the landscape of the mountainous regions. And we've kind of talked about the different aspects around some of the solutions that are already there to be able to do it. But even within the most challenging environments, there's different places. There's the valley floor that can be more accessible. There's different ways of accessing higher viewpoints. And speaking, I think, to a point that Patrick made, we just need to be able to audit those and do proper awareness around what's available and how that can be accessed to people of all abilities. And that's one of the missing components at the moment. But again, always trying to be the optimist around things. And through my own experience in the field that we've done, as human beings, we're only limited by our own creativity. And we only need to look back at the challenging environment that the pandemic threw us and the amazing amount of innovation that came out just through dealing with that. So something that parts can look at is, as we're trying to find solutions, it's not just us or people similar to working on this panel right now, but the more we can open up to find solutions, like open up, whether it's competitions, engagements, engaging different social enterprise, in coming together to recognize the gap and what we're trying to achieve, and broaden the reach to find those solutions, and they will come. So.
Yeah, I think there's so much there to learn from other areas as well, and or solutions that would be very applicable in parks if you just take a really creative viewpoint at it. Patrick, I saw your hand up, and then we'll give Tanelle a chance as well. So Patrick,
I just wanted to add that, I mean, Jamie, from the knowledge that I have about your organization, and I'm not sure who else is watching, but they do an excellent job at ensuring that there is no mountain or area that is too high or anything like that. So they work very diligently to be able to allow that and allow people to experience those types of things. So it's amazing that the work that Jamie and the other panelists are doing with the accessibility, especially on the physical side of that. So that is very excellent to see, because like I was saying before, like the experience of being out in the outdoors and experiencing the parks should be for everyone, and they do an excellent job at doing that. So just wanted to acknowledge them in that space.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Tanelle, do you have any thoughts on this idea of equivalent experiences?
Not really any new ones, but I will just sort of recap. Stakeholder engagement is so key to providing these experiences to people and seeing where they truly want to go. And stakeholder engagement, to acknowledge what Noah had said previously, has to start historically with the people who have been there forever and the experiences that they have had and how they see the land that they are on developing in the future to offer these same experiences to just such the diverse group of people that has never had the opportunity to get there. The equivalent accessible experiences, like Carinna said, you talk to some individuals in a wheelchair, I want to go 4 kilometers. Somebody is really okay going 400 meters and having that similar experience in their own way, in a safe environment that is really, that is being included to them. Where I like to hang out with Jamie and get to the tops of the mountains, and there are individuals that really just want to get to the shoreline on the beach. So doing the iconic experiences and talking to the Indigenous people that have been there historically, and not just Indigenous as the color of our skin, but the people who have really been there the longest, asking what are the individual desires of people. And parks, I know from experience, has really lost their social sciences department in outreach and engagement with the people that are in the parks right now, and the people and the Canadians that want to get to the parks. Like Patrick said, or Carinna, in the quiet hour, when it's not, 12 tour buses and you're having to navigate an inaccessible bus on inaccessible trails, and then when you finally get there, you have 6 rows of people in front of your wheelchair and all you get to look at is the backside of a human. So yeah, all of these things put together, everybody's got very good points, and being more mindful to that stakeholder engagement and talking to the people and networking and seeing, what do you really want? We can come up with ideas all day long. I can tell you that, $10 million and we're going to go and try and do things our way, but that doesn't actually address everybody's needs.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think that's it. Engaging people in these designing, like the design process and the planning process and stuff, goes a long way. Oh my gosh, you guys, again, we're like running out of time. I feel like these are conversations that we could have all day long and still have so much to talk about. But I wanted to fit in one last question. The primary mandate of this conference was to gather people together that have a shared interest in improving national and provincial park accessibility, and to learn from the advancements others have been making as well. So in that vein, is there a park or a park experience you can speak to that really nailed accessibility? Like they had a fantastic accessible resource, they had great equipment rental, or like an amazing multi-sensory trail. If you can share kind of an example of where you've seen accessibility really, really be successful, I think that would be amazing for everyone to learn from. So Tanelle, let's throw it back to you to start with, and then we'll go around.
I don't know, in my dreams.
Fair.
I would say, Rocky Mountain Adaptive, Jamie in Canmore, they are the ones, he is the one that provides the most independent access to the places that I wanted to reach after my spinal cord injury. I found RMA very early on. Full disclosure, Jamie was my downhill ski coach for a while, and the very first person that ever let me take a hand cycle away from him and use it. So the inception of the rad idea did come from RMA, and yeah, it's in my dreams. If somebody else knows of anywhere, I will go there and visit it.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear from Noah next. If you've had an experience you felt really nailed accessibility.
Sorry, what I experienced here now than before. In reality, I've been to the west, Calgary, Alberta, those area. I really, I really enjoyed the accessibility information challenges as well, and being on my own, and bringing it here has created a positive impact for everybody, not just for I. It's good to learn from each other. More positive we think, the better. And, it's good to connect with Rocky Mountain, and more the better. And further they go, more we engage, the better. I think it's the challenge is how we can educate each other. So it's great. And more importantly, to work with educators such as young users, youth challenges, and as well with adults. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Noah. Jamie, yeah.
Again, looking at the interpretation of providing an answer in the most optimistic way, I very much look forward to the 10th annual version of this conference and being asked the same question and being able to reel off lots of examples of the perfect experience due to the application and learnings that have been implemented from such conferences like this. The best I can do at the moment is just give snippets of little parts, which if all came together everywhere would create incredible environments. But I remember traveling, just nothing to do with an adaptive realm, but just on a family holiday over to Vancouver Island. And I was at Tribune Bay Provincial Park on Hornby Island. Yeah, there was nice gravel, hard packed pathway down to this incredible, beautiful beach, and went to use the washroom after traveling there. There was 4 washroom options. every single one was the only options were accessible washrooms done to universal design, and it was outhouses, and like that was perfect. I was like, this is amazing. Like, it's not that there's just a little afterthought or one little option for everyone. Like, that was all that was on offer. That was fantastic. I have to give a massive shout out to Alberta Parks for their investment in a place called William Watson Lodge, which is down in one of their provincial parks, which provides incredible, fully inclusive and accessible accommodations in a completely outstanding wilderness setting. I'll let someone else speak, but that's fantastic.
No, that's fantastic to hear that there's things going well somewhere. Carinna, let's hear from you.
Sure. I mean, I would definitely echo what's been spoken about, and Jamie's example is great. BC Parks has done an amazing job of some accessibility upgrades on Vancouver Island, a little bit north of Victoria in Rathtrevor and Parksville and Loveland Bay, and some upgrades around accessibility to the beach, the playgrounds, the bathrooms as well. There's ways to go, and I would say an example I wanted to share too is a different one, which BC Parks Foundation did, and that was really working with the traditional territory of the Shekwamik people, and they did a story trail, and that story trail always made me think of a great way to bring innovation to parks that builds on the natural history, and people could walk by posts or roll by posts, and then you would scan it and you'd hear some traditional stories of the local First Nations that are there. But it also made me think about ways that you could create integration in parks that creates, again, that universal perspective for different abilities, different cultures, different backgrounds, and really connect people to that land and build on that sense of connection and belonging. So I think we can think broader than just the modifications to make to the site, and how to also deepen that connection through different ways of integration of different tools and services.
Amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Carinna. And Patrick, do you have any examples?
Yeah, I mean, Jamie nailed it with the William Watson Lodge scenario. Like, they have done a great job out there, and many of our clients participate in that facility. And even within our organization, we do many hikes and learning opportunities out there. I will also add that based on our organization, we try to develop employment skills, and part of that is through volunteerism. And so there's many organizations within the provincial park system within Calgary that have provided us the opportunity to go into the parks and participate in invasive species or invasive weed species or something like that, recognition and pulling, and it allows our clients to develop those skills in volunteerism, but also provide a service back to their community so that they can grow that greater sense of community through the park system and through the natural environment. So having those collaborations and partnerships where people are allowed to get involved and allowed to be accessible and inclusive, it's just amazing. And I think it just promotes a greater sense of community as a whole, and then a greater sense of connection with the natural environment and wilderness. So that's always a great experience for us.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Everyone, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. This was a fantastic conversation, and I know that we could go on for hours. But so I'd like to thank our panel, Carinna, Tanelle, Patrick, Jamie, and Noah. Thank you so much for that wonderful discussion. This brings us to the end of this hour, so we're going to take a short break, and our next session will start at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.